GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network. You're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast on the Gear Radio Network.
And with that, we welcome you to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. This is episode number 181.
181. That's dope.
And look at, you heard it here first. You know my voice, and you know the man talking on the IndyCar Media Hotline, Mr. Perez himself at MRLG Perez.
What's up?
Lewis, I think it's the first time since, if I'm not mistaken, like September of last year of 2021 that we've been together on the podcast. So, hey, man, it's good to hear your voice. It's good to have you back on the podcast.
Man, listen, it's good to be here. It's good to hear your voice. I've missed this. So
me too.
It's awesome, bro.
And look at, man, there's a lot to talk about in this podcast episode. It's entitled "Sportsing is Happening," because look at, we try to focus on like chunks in time with the podcast, but this one here, a lot has happened since the last time that we spoke, and a lot has happened in the past few weeks that we're going to talk about here today. First off, just want to mention before.
Days.
Exactly. The last couple of days, even. You can hear us on betterlivethandead.com, gearnetwork.com, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Always make sure to subscribe, like, share, comment on the podcast, whatever you can do to help the algorithm to get us out there more and get friends to listen to us. And then maybe we can have a little more fun talking some trash about their favorite teams. Lewis, jumping headfirst into the three big things, because like I said, there's a lot to talk about today. Our three big things brought to you by puckluck.com, your one-stop resource for all your NHL sports betting action. Puckluck provides win percentages and score projections for each and every NHL game to tilt the ice in your favor. Not sure what to bet or just in a rut? Not to worry. Puckluck also provides expert picks to get the puck bouncing your way. Please do note, though, Puckluck.com is in no way affiliated with the National Hockey League, its teams, or the NHLPA. Puckluck.com provides data related to gambling and cannot guarantee the success of any suggested or related wagers. As always, please gamble responsibly. Now, Lewis, I mentioned it just a minute ago, and you said it too even. A lot of crazy stuff has happened recently, and I think the craziest of things that happened is the trade that shook the National Football League. 11 days ago, as of recording time on March 8th, the Denver Broncos got their man. They acquired quarterback Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson and a 2022 fourth-round pick head to Denver in exchange for a 2022 first-round pick, 9th overall, a 2022 second-round pick, a 2022 fifth-round pick, a 2023 first and second-round pick, along with tight end Noah Fant, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, and quarterback Drew Lock. Now, Lewis, I feel like, my personal opinion here, Russell Wilson kind of gets a bad rap. We've talked about this before in the podcast because for some reason, it seems like the Seattle Seahawks and Pete Carroll, jet fuel can't melt steel beams, Pete Carroll, has an infatuation with not letting Russ cook. And we saw it last year, the first handful of games where Russell Wilson came out of the gate hot, and he was really,
right.
I bet, lack of a better explanation, he's balling out. I mean, in 158 career games, Lewis, he's got 104 in 53 and 1 record, 65% completion percentage, 37,059 passing yards, 292 passing touchdowns with 87 interceptions. He has 4,689 rushing yards on 846 attempts. That's 5.5 yards per attempt with 23 rushing touchdowns. Also, 2 Super Bowl appearances with 1 Super Bowl victory. Both of those memorable. We'll never forget the decision to pass on the 1-yard line instead of giving it to Marshawn Lynch. He would have had 2 Super Bowl victories. He should have 2 Super Bowl victories. But Lewis, what do you think about this deal for Denver? I mean, we know what it means for Seattle. They're going to be rebuilding, it looks like. But what does this deal do for you in terms of the Denver Broncos?
I don't know. Maybe makes them a playoff contender. Russell Wilson is a great quarterback. I mean, we just ran down his stats. He has very good stats. He's got a lot left in the tank. He's a mobile quarterback that can scramble, and he can throw the ball down the field. So he's always going to be dangerous. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, Denver came up a whole lot to get that quarterback.
They did. It really better work out for them.
I mean, bro, they gave up a ton. I don't know if I would have given up that much.
Well, you look at that though, Lewis, and that is a great point to bring up. He rolls into Denver with what amounts to a 2-year, $51 million contract. Seattle eats $26 million in dead cap for 2022 per spot track. Denver is likely to extend Russell Wilson's contract, so barring anything spectacular, I would have to think Russell Wilson ends his career with the Denver Broncos. But Lewis, I think this here is a very big point as to why Denver was willing to give up as much as they did. Since Peyton Manning retired, 97 games ago is the last time Peyton Manning played for the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson's the 12th starting quarterback,
which is
like
crazy,
insane. Listen to these names, and I title this so cutely because I'm so adorable. Boulevard of Broken Quarterback Dreams. In 97 games since Peyton Manning retired, Brock Osweiler has started 4 games. Now, real quick too, that doesn't include the season where Peyton and Brock went back and forth, and then Peyton played in the playoffs. This is simply after Peyton retired. So Brock Osweiler had 4 starts. Trevor Siemian, 24 starts. Paxton Lynch, 4 starts. Case Keenum had 16 starts. Joe Flacco, Mr. Elite himself, 8 starts. Drew Lock, 21 starts. Brandon Allen, 3 starts. Jeff Driscoll, 1 start. Brett Rippon, I can never get the name right, 1 start. Philip Lindsay, remember that game, Lewis, where the Denver Broncos got busted breaking COVID protocol, and the NFL made them start technically the first play was a wildcat play, so the running back gets the start, but a wide receiver played quarterback. And then Teddy Bridgewater had 14 starts for the Denver Broncos. So you can clearly see why. I mean, the talent that Denver has on the offensive side of things, I mean, they are ready to go. And it really looked like Drew Lock was not the guy. And now Denver also has a new head coach, Nathaniel Hackett, the ex Jacksonville Jaguar offensive coordinator. I believe he was an offensive coordinator in Green Bay as well. He was also with the Buffalo Bills. You'll remember him under Doug Marrone. Yeah, that was a nightmare. He clearly gets a great guy, obviously. But with that young talent in Denver, you have to believe, and with how strong their defense is annually, you have to think that, like you said, Lewis, they're a playoff contender. But there's always a but. And I know I'm talking a lot, so I want to get your thoughts here in a minute. But there's a lot to break down here. There's a lot to spell out for the listener here. First off, Denver also makes a big splash signing defensive end Randy Gregory of the Cowboys after Gregory was reportedly upset at the language in his new contract. Quote, the clause, according to Clarence Hill Jr., stated that, quote, a player could lose bonuses or guarantees if a player is fined or suspended. According to Gregory's camp, the player did not previously agree upon those words, and the team did not seem happy with the last-minute switch. His team did not seem happy with the last-minute switch. According to Jane Slater, the team felt, quote, lied to because those words were never discussed in monetary negotiations. The clause was also not present in the contract with Denver. Gregory took the same contract. Apparently, Lewis, you being the Cowboys fan here, that's something that Dallas has done for years, but especially with a guy like Randy Gregory, who I believe he had a couple drug suspensions at one point or something like that. I can't remember exactly. That's what I thought. So that happens once in Dallas, he loses all of his money, right? So, I mean, can you blame the guy?
No. And I'm not real happy about it because even with his off-field issues, on the field, he's an absolute beast. So that's it is what it is. However,
you always got to take the bag, man. You always got to take the bag. Treat yourself, take the bag.
That's right. That's right. And, like we're talking about the quarterbacks that have started for Denver. Remember when Brock Osweiler was supposed to be the next big thing? He signed like a $74 million contract. And that was good for him. Again, get the bag. Yeah,
if you can get it, take it, but holy crap, what a bad decision. But Lewis, this Russell Wilson move sparked an arms race in the AFC West that we have not seen like this. I may have to say, I'm not being hyperbolic here. This offseason, I think, shifted the weight of the league from the NFC to the AFC. I honestly think
very possible.
And we're not talking about this in the podcast because it's not surprising at all, but Tom Brady unretired because the path to the NFC crown looks pretty damn easy right now. And I'll tell you why. The AFC Arms Race and the AFC West Arms Race, the Los Angeles Chargers respond by acquiring all-pro pass rusher Khalil Mack from the Chicago Bears. He is coming off a foot injury and subsequent foot surgery, which limited him 7 games last year, but he has 76.5 sacks in 117 career games. They also signed defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph Day from the Rams, cornerback J.C. Jackson from the Patriots, and also re-signed wide receiver Mike Williams. Kansas City signed wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster from the Steelers and safety Justin Reed from the Texans. They also franchise tagged their offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr. The Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, quite possibly blew the top off the thing. They commit to Derek Carr. And how do I mention that they commit to Derek Carr? I'll tell you in just a second. They extend the contract of defensive end Max Crosby. His 25 sacks in 49 career games, arguably Mike Mayock's best draft pick when he was the general manager there. They signed defensive end Chandler Jones, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals. They acquired cornerback Rock Ya-Sin from the Colts and wide receiver Devontae Adams from the Packers, who subsequently agreed to a brand new 5-year, $141.25 million deal. Furthermore, locking in the fact that Derek Carr is their guy. And why do you think that? Because Derek Carr and Devontae Adams played together at Fresno State in college. And look,
yes, they did.
I know Derek Carr's name isn't sexy. It doesn't jump off the page at you, but he is consistent, if nothing else. And Lewis, I mean, this AFC West is going to beat the shit out of itself.
They are. That's 100% accurate. And I can't believe that the Packers let Devontae Adams.
Apparently,
I can't believe they traded him.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. But the thing is they had said, apparently, he said, I'm not going to be playing for you anymore. So they tag him and then trade him and at least get some value back. So that was smart. But right. I mean, Aaron Rodgers allegedly knew that it was going to happen before it happened, like before he re-signed with the franchise. So again, it's a situation where you look at it and you say, okay, so I understand that this is stupid, and why would you trade a guy like Devontae Adams? But if he doesn't want to stay, right. He's made that clear. Get what you can.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And I gotta be honest with you, like I wouldn't want to play with someone like Aaron. Like, no, thank you. I'd want to be traded too.
I mean, on the field, he's great. Off the field, I could do without him for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
here's the interesting thing, though, Lewis. Because the AFC West, they play each other twice. Each team plays each other twice a season. So there's that. They're going to cannibalize themselves. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch because for a while it's always been one good team, one kind of good team, and then 2 bad teams in the West. But now those teams are going to all be very good and very fun to watch. With that being said, it really brings us to our second of the 3 big things. Everybody else should load up. And that's kind of what we've seen. The AFC West is set to cannibalize itself. The remaining AFC teams set their course to load up with sights set on the conference's 1 seed. Because if there's not one team that steps out from the other ones and they're all relatively average, mediocre because they're beating up on each other, that 1 seed is going to be wide open. So you look at things like Cincinnati. They shore up their offensive line. They saw what Joe Burrow could do without a solid offensive line, almost winning the Super Bowl. Now we're going to get to see what he can do with a solid offensive line. They go out and sign right guard Alex Kappa from the Buccaneers, center Ted Karras or Karras, I think it's Karras, from the Patriots, and reportedly are close to a deal with tackle Lyle Collins from the Cowboys. So again, Cincinnati put their money where their mouth is. They said, look, we talked about this before. Joe Burrow's going to get killed if they keep hitting him as much, and he keeps getting hit as much as he has been. So, Lewis, what do you think about the early returns on Cincinnati shoring up their offensive line to protect Joe Burrow?
I think it's a smart move. Like you said, they got to the Super Bowl last year. He was not protected great. He's a good quarterback. I like the kid. For the most part, I like the kid. He's a fake cigar smoker, and that bothers me.
There's nothing Lewis loves more than a cocky white boy.
Exactly. My whole thing is like, if you're going to smoke cigars, smoke cigars. Don't pretend to smoke cigars and have people talk about you smoking cigars when you don't even really smoke cigars. That's my thing.
I mean, that is a sore subject for you. Yeah.
It is. But, I mean, if that line could gel and actually protect them, then obviously they have a chance to possibly get back to the Super Bowl. Maybe.
Well, but here's the thing too, and I don't want to talk much about this because it is really, really disgusting how it's played out. The AFC Central, the AFC North. I'm sorry, not the Central. What the hell am I talking about? Football's been off my brain for a few weeks, and I'm already forgetting how the league works. The Browns go out. The Browns go out and flirt with Deshaun Watson. Baker Mayfield says, "Trade me. I'm out. I don't want to be here because you don't want me." And then Deshaun Watson almost gets traded to the Falcons, which would have been wild because it would have set off a chain of events. Excuse me. And then instead, the Browns say, "Hey, we're going to give you $250 million or whatever guaranteed if you come to Cleveland," which he did. And the most disgusting part about the entire thing, Lewis, I'm not sure if you caught this, was that the new contract, his actual, I don't think it's cap hit, but the actual salary for next season is $1 million. So if he loses any money, which he likely will when he likely gets suspended from the league for the 22 sexual assault or sexual harassment charges or cases that he has against him, lawsuits, that's the word I'm looking for, because they found that there was not enough evidence to prove guilt, but those lawsuits still stand. He's not going to lose a lot of money. So that's really gross. And it just, no, I don't like that. That's really screwed up because it's not the NCAA where you can say, "Oh, well, we gave that kid a house and a car, so we're just going to not play in the postseason for a year." And the NCAA is like, that's fine. I don't think the NFL is going to take it into consideration very much that the Texans kept Deshaun Watson out of the lineup for an entire season. I think he's going to miss a decent chunk of next season. And rightfully so, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know. I got nothing for you there, man.
And I really hope for Baker Mayfield's sake. First off,
I feel bad for Baker.
I mean, I do too, but you know what? I hope for his sake he gets traded to the Colts where he's asked to be traded to.
That'd be good.
I think it's a good spot for him because you know what? And like I said, I didn't mention this I didn't put this in the notes, but once Baker Mayfield gets traded, we can talk more about him. But that man has put his life on the line for the Cleveland Browns. They get one decent quarterback, and the Browns are like, "Nah, we can do better." It's like, okay, well, Baker Mayfield played last season with one arm, literally one arm, and you're oh well, he regressed. Okay, he had a torn labrum in his shoulder, and then something else. His collarbone was messed up or something like that, or his AC joint was messed up. Come on now. But Lewis, it's the annual celebration, the annual March celebration of crowning the Jacksonville Jaguars the offseason Super Bowl champions. Now, they spent almost $250 million in the first day of free agency. $250 million.
That's just dumb, by the way. Holy cow.
They spent a ton of money on Christian Kirk, wide receiver from the Cardinals. Sometimes you got to overpay to play when you're a really bad team. So you give Trevor Lawrence a weapon, which is fine. They get guard Brandon Scherf from the Commanders, the Washington Commanders, and wide receiver Zay Jones from the Raiders, among others. I think the deal for Zay Jones, probably not smart, a lot of money for a okay wide receiver, ex-Buffalo Bill. But I think the Christian Kirk deal, I think it's you're paying more because it's that Jacksonville tax kind of, but
right.
I think that one might actually pan out because Christian Kirk is very talented. He's a very good young wide receiver, but that's a lot of freaking money for a player.
Yeah. But there's been a lot of money being thrown around across the board. So,
well, that's the one funny thing that I never realized is that you talk about teams that spend a lot of money in free agency. They spend it because they don't have the players. You look at other teams that are really good that don't spend a ton of money in free agency because they don't have to. So it's like the bad teams have to because they have the money available, which is, I guess, logical when you think about it. But, Lewis, the one thing I've been waiting to talk to you about, and I'm sure you can guess why. After a heartbreaking loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, arguably one of the greatest postseason games we've ever seen, Buffalo has pushed all their chips to the center of the table and confirmed that they are indeed all in for 2022. Now, they re-signed wide receiver Isaiah McKenzie, wide receiver Jake Kummerow, and special teams ace cornerback Saran Neal. They extended center Mitch Morse, who has actually saved them money on the cap. They acquired quarterback Case Keenum today on Saturday for a 7th round pick in 2022, which will shore up their backup quarterback position after their backup quarterback Mitch Trubisky, Money Mitch himself, the man. The human victory cigar. That's what I call him on Trust the Podcast. He's a Pittsburgh Steeler now. So they get Case Keenum, and there's reports that they're going to be signing, Matt Barkley as well to probably be the 3rd string quarterback. They signed tight end OJ Howard, offensive guard Roger Saffold from the Titans, OJ Howard of the Buccaneers. Defensive end Shaq Lawson, ex-Buffalo Bill. Defensive tackle Daquan Jones. Defensive tackle Tim Settle. They signed defensive tackle Jordan Phillips as well. And the big one, linebacker Von Miller. Now, holy crap, Lewis.
I'm just going to say this. And you know my feelings about the Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
You know I don't like the team.
Yeah.
You know I don't care for them. You know I think their fans are obnoxious.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, most NFL fans are obnoxious. However, if the Buffalo Bills stay healthy next season, and if they don't make it to the Super Bowl, their season's a bust. If they don't win the Super Bowl, their season's a bust. They're talented. They're going to have a great freaking team.
I think we heard some rumors starting in the earlier in the off season. That's the word I'm looking for. That a lot of players were confused and upset with how the game ended in Kansas City and how Sean McDermott didn't kind of stand up. He always talks about accountability and all that, and they didn't stand up. He didn't stand up for the team. He didn't stand up for the players. Nothing. He was just kind of like, oh well, it is what it is, whatever. And there's a really good article in The Athletic about that. But I think if anything, this is going to put all of the pressure on Sean McDermott. And maybe that's not a bad
100%.
thing. Because they talked about the reason they went out and splurged for Von Miller was because they realized, and Sean McDermott himself said something along the lines of, I don't have the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, we saw how last season ended and we knew we needed to shore that up. And Von Miller does that because Von Miller, which again, a wonderful example of salary cap Olympics by Bills GM Brandon Beane. The deal itself on the surface, 6 years, $120 million, but has a potential out after 3 seasons. According to SpotTrack, the deal would end up being 3 years, $52.470 million, the dead cap hit of $7.410 million if they were to cut him after 3 years. I believe there's like $51 million guaranteed at the time of signing, so it's roughly about the same. Miller is arguably Buffalo's biggest free agent signing ever, coming 10 years in 1 day, which is crazy. 10 years in 1 day after the Buffalo Bills signed their second biggest free agent, Mario Williams. I don't think I'm too far when I say that Miller is a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer right now. He's 115.5 career sacks, looking to become just the second player in NFL history, Lewis, to win 3 Super Bowl titles with 3 different franchises. Matt Millen, of Detroit Lion fame, obviously, won a Super Bowl with Oakland, San Francisco, and Washington. But my opinion here on this subject, Lewis, is that Miller's presence off the field alone should make the Bills better, because not only on the field are you getting Von Miller, a future Hall of Famer, but he's able to work on on rushing the passer and getting to the quarterback and being game changers with the young defensive ends, defensive linemen, linebackers the Bills have, like Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, Ed Oliver, Boogie Basham, Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds. That should pay dividends alone to have him in that room to be able to teach those kids. But then you put him on the field, and that's the thing we saw in the game with the Chiefs, is that, the secondary got cooked. I mean, the Chiefs secondary got cooked too. It was a good old fashioned shootout, but
yes.
Looking at it, if you can take the pressure off of those safeties and cornerbacks by putting pressure on the quarterback, all of a sudden things are much better. So then you don't give Patrick Mahomes too much time to be able to wheel and deal. I mean, there were some poor coaching decisions made in that game, which we've talked about ad nauseum at this point on both Trust the Podcast and the Better Life Than Dead podcast. But I think that even if, knock on wood, if I think Miller will stay healthy, he stayed healthy for most of his career. But even if Miller doesn't stay healthy, having him in that room with those players alone is worth it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. He's been around, a good chunk of time. He knows what he's doing. He's a leader. He's a great player. He'll be able to teach those guys a thing or two. So yeah, no, it's a great pickup.
And I think I
was shocked when I heard it.
Me too. I saw the tweet and was like, this has got to be a fake account. Then you see the check mark and you're like, oh, holy crap. The thing that I was going to say that I completely forgot, I don't remember. So that was really good.
Awesome.
I was trying to walk myself back into it, but I think it just had something to do with, I don't know. Von Miller is a Buffalo Bill, and it's crazy. It made me forget what I was talking about. Clearly not important, but the Miller signing very important for the Buffalo Bills, who were very quiet in the first day of free agency, and it made people worried because you see everybody else loading up, and you're like, okay, well, what are the Bills going to do? And then out of nowhere, within a 5-minute period, they announced O.J. Howard and Von Miller, and I think it's the Josh Allen effect because Von Miller talked about how great of a player Josh Allen already is. And just having that experience alone it's going to be fantastic. And I think the Buffalo Bills are in a very good position next season.
I can't argue with that. I would love to argue with that. I would love to break it down and rip it apart. However, as I already stated, I think that if they don't make the Super Bowl, it's a busted season because they're going to be very good next season. At least they should be, if everyone can stay healthy.
I agree. Now, question for you before you go to commercial break, because I had forgotten to ask you. Thoughts on Amari Cooper being traded to the Cleveland Browns. The Cowboys were going to cut him, trade him to Cleveland, and then today we find out. Goodness gracious, I had it somewhere here where Amari Cooper. They changed his deal to like a $15 million signing bonus, which opened up some cap space or something like that. So Cleveland found a way around that terrible contract that the Cowboys wanted to get rid of and did get rid of. But you being the Cowboys fan, the resident Cowboys fan of the podcast, I want to get your thoughts on the Amari Cooper trade to the Cleveland Browns.
All right, man, listen, at this point, the Cowboys will always be my favorite team. Love the Dallas Cowboys. I have since I was very, very young. However, I have no bloody blue idea what they're doing. So I think Jerry Jones needs to take a step back. They need to hire someone else to be the general manager as well. I mean, he's controlling things in a way that don't make any sense to me. Now, Amari didn't have, blowout stats when he was with the Cowboys, but he still had good stats, and he was still a great wide receiver. He was still very serviceable. I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea what they're doing.
I think that Cleveland is going to find out that they're going to like Amari Cooper very much, very quickly.
Oh,
I mean, it seems like the development of what's his face? I'm completely forgetting the wide receiver for the Cowboys, the young wide receiver for the Cowboys.
Oh, CeeDee Lamb?
Thank you, CeeDee Lamb. I think that his development has certainly pushed Cooper out the door because of the ticket that he had, and obviously
100%.
There's no way you're gonna take a pay cut. Either cut me and I'll go sign somewhere else, or trade me to someone who will pay me that money, which that's what's ended up happening. But I don't disagree with you. I think that it feels like it's that wheeling and dealing thing like you have on Madden, where it's like I'll sign a guy to a $100 million contract and then trade him 2 years later. Oh wait, that just happened in Dallas. Never mind.
Right. It's just, listen, and this is what bothers me about the NFL, is that all these players want to take the top dollar contracts that they can get. And I get it. You want that bag, like we said earlier, get that bag. However, when we break down someone like I don't know, Tom freaking Brady, who consistently would take less money and rework his contracts to get other players. What happened? He's got, 7 freaking rings? And I feel like if more players had that mentality, then you would see more variety of teams being really freaking good. And so, I don't see. So you got Amari Cooper on one side and CeeDee Lamb on the other. Like, that's a lethal combination, and that's a combination I would want. And that's why I wouldn't have given Dak Prescott that huge contract that he got. Because I would have been like, listen, dude, like, we need this money to sign other players, and maybe we'll get a ring. But people don't think that way, and it's annoying to me. The Cowboys, I love them, but they annoy me to no end.
I mean, it comes down to, it sounds like that it was choosing to pay. I mean, this is the perception from outside of Dallas, is that they decided to pay Ezekiel Elliott and keep him around, and instead get rid of Amari Cooper. Oh yeah, it says here, because the tweet is a salary cap is a myth. The Browns restructured wide receiver Amari Cooper's contract, converting most of his $20 million base salary into a signing bonus, adding 2 void years and saving $15 million on the 2022 salary cap.
Yeah,
so again, if you have a good GM that knows how to manipulate the cap, you're good to go.
Right.
And they have some of the smartest guys.
The Cowboys don't.
No, Jerry Jones is
and the Cowboys
dinosaur. He's a dinosaur.
Exactly. You know who he's starting to remind me of?
Who?
And I hate to make this comparison, but like
Donald Trump.
He reminds. No, dude. No one remembers.
Well, I'm just saying, because recently, did you hear about Jerry Jones? Apparently, how he has a 35-year-old daughter that he didn't know about, or something, or he knew about her but didn't know about her.
No.
Hold on, I'll get it popped up.
That'll happen.
Let's see. Jerry Jones's latest scandal is a doozy. Last week, the president and general manager, this was last week, so it was written today. So yes, last week, the president and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys was sued by a 25-year-old woman who claims Jones is her biological father and that he paid her mother $375,000 to keep quiet about it.
That's it? Just $375,000? Yeah, you gotta pay up, Jerry.
You have to pay more money. Yeah. How much money do you think? How much do you think you'd have to pay to keep someone quiet that you have, that you're their father of their child or whatever, and they don't want anyone to know? Because I think it'd be a lot more than that.
Like, if I was rich, probably way more than that. But like, if I wasn't rich, which I'm not, then I would just tell everyone.
You would just...
I'd be like, guess what?
I'm just getting the news out before you can.
Listen, you know what? My parents would be so mad at me, and yet so happy because they finally got a grandkid. So I'll be telling everyone.
Your wife.
But I was going to say, Jerry reminds me of Vince McMahon at this point.
True. Very true. Very true.
But like, you're just out of touch, bro.
Stuck in the past, refusing to change, going back to the well for the same exact thing every single time. I understand that.
Exactly. So,
well, let's go
to a commercial. Man.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna take a quick commercial break. After this, we're gonna throw the third of the 3 big things and the look ahead together, because I got to go back to dad duty here. So we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back here in just a moment with more of the Better Live Than Dead podcast after these quick commercial breaks. And we are back here on the Better Live Than Dead podcast. And Lewis, I never thought it would happen this year, but we are talking baseball on a podcast.
That makes me super happy.
So on March 10th, Major League Baseball and the Players Association agreed to a new collective bargaining agreement, which was ratified later on that evening. Opening day is April 7th. And in case you missed it, we're just going to run down a few things really quick. Some big trades. Toronto acquires third baseman Matt Chapman from the oft rebuilding Oakland Athletics. Seattle acquires outfielder Jesse Winkler, and third baseman Eugenio Suarez from the Cincinnati Reds, who also appear to be rebuilding. Atlanta acquired first baseman Matt Olson from the Oakland Athletics. Atlanta then subsequently signed Matt Olson to a long-term deal shortly thereafter. The New York Yankees acquire third baseman Josh Donaldson, infielder Isaiah Kiner Falefa. And I almost said, I'm still talking football, so I see C, and I'm like, oh, he's center. He's not a center. He's a catcher. Ben Rohrvedt, and Minnesota acquires in that same deal catcher Gary Sanchez and infielder Gio Urshela. Minnesota also acquires pitcher Sonny Gray from the Reds, and the Mets acquire pitcher Chris Bassett from the Athletics. Minnesota shocked the world actually this morning on March 19th. I woke up at 3 a.m. and thought it said Houston signed Carlos Correa, but Minnesota signs shortstop Carlos Correa to a 3-year, $105 million contract. The Philadelphia Phillies have been busy. They signed off our outfielder and designated hitter Nick Castellanos to a 5-year, $100 million deal. The Dodgers, again, going out and making moves. They always make the moves. They always spend the most money. They're crazy out there in Los Angeles. They signed Freddie Freeman, first baseman, formerly of the Braves, to a 6-year, $162 million deal. Colorado, for some reason. Chris Bryant's a great player, but I don't know why the Rockies wanted Chris Bryant, or Chris Bryant decided to go play for the Rockies. But offense.
Because of 7 years, $182 million.
Outfielder, third baseman, 7 years, $182 million. Philadelphia also signs outfielder DA and DH Kyle Schwarber to a 4-year deal. I keep saying DH because, in case you missed it as well, we have a universal DH in Major League Baseball. Now, both sides. The New York Yankees re-signed first baseman Anthony Rizzo to a 2-year, $32 million deal. The Toronto Blue Jays, who we're going to talk about in just a minute, they signed pitcher Yusei Kikuchi to a 3-year, $36 million deal. And the San Francisco Giants signed pitcher Carlos Rodon to a 2-year, $44 million deal. Now, Lewis, what to watch for here? For me, Toronto's rotation of Berrios, Gausman, Ryu, Manoah, and Kikuchi, they're going to be great. Toronto's going to be very hard to beat, especially with their great lineup. I'm interested to find out how bad Cincinnati's going to be, because they had a fire sale and they're continuing to do that. And how many American League East teams can you fit in one playoff? Because again, another change. There are 12 teams now in the playoffs, 6 on each side. So it's going to be a crazy season because everything is compressed. Spring training is compressed, but the season's right around the corner, Lewis, and I'm thrilled for baseball to be returning.
Bro, listen, I was in a store the other day. For those of you who don't know, I'm a territory manager for Google, and I go into cell phone stores and train them on our products like the Google Pixels. And one of the reps in one of the stores said out loud, he verbalized this. He said, oh yeah, baseball's back, whatever, baseball's boring. And I wanted to slap the dude.
I mean, he's not wrong, and they're trying to fix it, but like,
I don't know. Baseball is exciting.
Lewis, I don't know
baseball.
what I would do like in July, for instance. And I was asking around to some friends, like, what do you non-baseball fans do in the summertime? Because
soccer.
Well, I mean, I always watch soccer. Got no problem with that. Formula One, always watching. NASCAR, always watching. But
you know my problem with Formula One?
What's that?
Is that they're all electric cars now.
No, they're not in F1. F1's not electric. They have an electric series, but they're still.
Okay, that's true. They do. I was watching the electric series earlier today, and I was like, they seem kind of slow. Like,
you're killing me, man. You're killing me. I was watching electric series. All the cars are electric. What's next?
I forgot it. I thought they had switched completely over.
By the time you hear this podcast, Bahrain will probably have happened. But Lewis, if you have time tomorrow morning, wake up and watch the F1 race in Bahrain. It'll be great. New cars, everything's all shaken up. It's a lot of fun. But back to baseball, I was like, there's nothing better. Like I love waking up on
F1 way more than NASCAR. I love NASCAR. Love
NASCAR's, and we talked about this on the last episode of the BLTD podcast, episode number 180. Just keep turning right. Good friend Victoria, friend of the pod. We talked about NASCAR, their new next gen cars, new stars, all that stuff. Check it out. It's a great listen. It was a great conversation. But I love just putzing around on a Saturday or Sunday, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You've got a game on the radio. You've got a game on TV. You're not really paying attention, but it's there. It's like nice background noise. I love that. That's my favorite thing. Even if the Red Sox might not be great this year, baseball is going to be a lot of fun.
Baseball is going to be a lot of fun. I think the Mets are going to have a better team this year. I think the Yankees will be exciting. Yeah, I think the Yankees will be exciting to watch if their pitching can hold up. Because oh my God, they've done nothing to shore up their pitching, and it's driving me bananas. All right, sorry about that.
That's okay. Well, right now, Baseball Prospectus's Petcoa standings projection as of the 17th of March has the National League projected division winners, the Mets winning the NL East with 91.9 wins, Milwaukee winning the NL Central with 91.3 wins, and the Dodgers winning the West with 102.1 wins. Projected wildcard teams are the Braves at 91.6 wins, the Padres at 90.8 wins, which might change now that Fernando Tatis Jr. is out for, I think, roughly 3 months with a fractured wrist. He's having surgery on that apparently soon. And then Philadelphia, who, again, they've upped their game this offseason. They are projected 83.8 wins as the final wildcard team. In the American League, the projected winners of the divisions are as follows. The Yankees in the East with 98.5 wins, the White Sox in the Central with 92.1 wins, and Houston in the West with 90.7 wins. Projected wildcard teams, the Blue Jays at 91.6 wins. I think that's almost a lock if they stay healthy. Tampa Bay, who had a great season last year, 86.1 wins. And the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim with 87.8 wins. I should swap those around actually because the wins are the Angels have more, the Rays have less, but you get the point. I think the White Sox will probably regress because they were very good last year, but they played in a very poor division with the Twins getting a little better and kind of, who knows what they're doing, but they're getting a little better. But then also Detroit putting up some money this offseason, but also their prospects are getting ready to blossom into major league players. A big guy to look at, I think, in my opinion, is Spencer Torkelson, not just because of his name, but that kid can freaking mash a ball, and he is going to be a lot of fun in that lineup. So I think that will certainly play a factor. I really hope
was those divisional winners projected, like Houston winning theirs at 90.7?
That's what it's saying. Yeah.
Was that before they lost Carlos Correa?
Well, I think that takes into consideration that he's not there because at the time he was not on their team.
Just curious.
Sure thing. Looking at Spencer Torkelson, Lewis, last year he played 121 games in the minors. He went from A+ to AA to AAA. He played 31 games in single A or A+. He hit 5 home runs. He goes up to AA, 50 games, 14 home runs. AAA, as a 21-year-old, 11 home runs in 40 games. He did bat .238, but strikeouts are down. Walks, he's 36 strikeouts, 23 walks in 40 games. Not horrible. I think he could, if he breaks camp with them, if he doesn't break camp with them, I should say, he's very close and he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. He was the first overall pick in the 2020 amateur draft. And I'm just super excited. Like I said, I'm super excited about him because I like a good ball masher,
Absolutely, 100%.
Is that a personal thing? I mean, I just like to watch guys who can hit the ball a country mile, and he can hit the damn ball.
Yes, he can.
Plus, we might get some time with him. We might get some time with him and Miguel Cabrera before Miguel Cabrera retires. So that'll be great too.
No doubt. Yeah, it would.
Aside from that, though, man, I'm just, again, the Red Sox haven't gone too crazy this offseason. You have to, it's one of those you have to continue to trust the process, trust the, whatever it is that Chaim Bloom is doing. From my perspective, it looks like they're trying to get Trevor Story, but Trevor Story might sign elsewhere. I know the Red Sox have a future first baseman in Tristan Cassis, who is ready to come up, I think, soon. Jeter Downs, who was acquired in a trade with the Dodgers a couple years ago. He should be ready to come up soon. The Red Sox have a tough decision coming up with Xander Bogaerts. They have to find a left fielder. Got to find a second baseman. They're without Chris Sale for the first at least few series of the season because he has a fractured rib. So again, it's a very weird, very strange kind of transition period for the Red Sox. But with Alex Cora, they always seem to make it work. So I would have to think that they're going to make it work.
Right.
But right now, I don't think that they're going to be a playoff team. But again, I mean, we'll see. But that's just my opinion as a Red Sox, as the Red Sox fan of the podcast. But I mean, you'd be thrilled if they went 0-162. So I know that. So it doesn't really matter what they do either way to you.
You know what matters? You know what matters?
Baseball's back.
Baseball. Absolutely.
Well, you know what too? Myself, I didn't mention this to John, but me, you, and John should get to a Red Wings game sometime this summer. That's something we haven't done in a while, if ever.
Oh, I'm super down.
So we'll have to do that. But going to wrap things up here before we start to just randomly rant about whatever. Luis, it's been an absolute pleasure. Appreciate you joining me.
Hey, man. Happy to be back. Happy to be here.
It's good to be back. Even if we don't podcast again for 8 more months, it still feels good to get a podcast on the air. Luis is.
Let's not do that, though.
I agree. Let's not do that. Luis is at MRLG Perez. I am at Wolfe BLTD on Twitter. As always, we are better live than dead.
You're not.
I'm glad you didn't forget that. Don't ever get it twisted. We will catch you sometime very soon. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody.
Who's this?
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.